All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, and
Deep.
yeah, really deep into some pretty intense stuff going on over in Somalia.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at those recent U.S. airstrikes, the ones targeting ISIS.
Right, right.
But, and here's the thing, we're not just going to stop at like, boom, airstrikes happened.
No.
We're going way bigger picture here. Think counterterrorism in Africa, how ISIS and al-Shabaab are playing this whole thing out, even some honestly kind of wild tactics ISIS is pulling.
It's fascinating stuff, really. I mean, you got drones, attempts to, control entire local economies.
Yeah, it's way more complex than just, guys with guns hiding out, right?
Absolutely. This ties into global counterterrorism in a huge way. So many threads, and we're going to try to untangle them a bit today.
Okay, so got to start somewhere. Let's set the scene. Recent U.S. airstrikes, Somalia targets, were Islamic State operatives. And from what the Pentagon's saying, multiple operatives were taken out. Thankfully, no civilian casualties reported.
That's the initial assessment, yeah. Pentagon also says this was all done, with the Somali government knowing and being on board.
Right.
And it's always important to mention agencies like the AP and Reuters, they haven't been able to independently verify all that yet.
Yeah, which, happens a lot with these kinds of things, unfortunately. Makes it tough to be totally sure about the impact.
Definitely adds a layer of fog, you could say.
And then, of course, got to throw former President Trump into the mix.
Of course.
She jumps onto social media, claims he directed the strikes, doubles down on Somali government involvement, even, throws in some criticism of the current administration for not acting sooner.
It's interesting how often politics, commentary, all that kind of ends up almost overshadowing what's actually going on.
For sure.
So while those debates rage on, the reality for the U.S. military is, well, there's a lot of challenges.
Like, for real challenge.
Big time. Losing those bases in Chad and Niger last year, that was massive.
Yeah, it's like losing your foothold in the region, isn't it? How badly did that hurt things?
Hurt. It basically upended counterterrorism efforts over there. Those bases, they were essential. Training local forces, launching missions, the whole 9 yards. And we're talking about a massive area, right? Sahel region, this whole belt across Africa, just below the Sahara.
Wow, okay, yeah, that's a big deal.
Huge. So, U.S. had to scramble, rethink strategies, how to use resources. It's ongoing.
All right, so with all that as backdrop, let's get to the, stars of the show, sadly. ISIS in Somalia. They came onto the scene back in 2015, right? Split off from al-Shabaab.
Splinter group.
Yeah.
And they've been busy.
Oh, yeah.
Main areas, the mountains, Puntland, those Galgala Mountains specifically, tough terrain.
Makes sense.
Led by this guy, Abu Qadir Muhammad. Now, they're not as big as al-Shabaab, not yet anyway.
Okay.
But they're ambitious. They've hit other parts of Somalia, and their tactics, that's what's really catching attention.
Well, yeah, because it's not just the usual terrorist stuff.
Not just bombs and fear. They're going for control, like economic control, extortion, smuggling, you name it, illicit taxes, trying to replace the government with their own system, basically.
That's wild. It's almost like organized crime, but with an ideology, right?
Right, yeah. There's even reports of them trying to muscle in on businesses in some coastal areas. It's a power play, but also financial control, which is a worrying combo.
And on top of that, you got the intel saying ISIS cells are getting really specific instructions from higher up.
Oh, yeah.
The leadership's supposedly moved to northern Somalia, and these instructions are intense. Kidnap Westerners for ransom, how to fight better, how to avoid drones.
And the drone thing, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
Because now they're using drones, which means counterterrorism has to adapt. New tech, new thinking, how you gather intel. It's a whole new game.
And it feels like ISIS is leveling up in a way that could get really bad really fast.
It's definitely cause for concern. The International Crisis Group estimates hundreds of ISIS militants are already in Somalia.
Hundreds?
Yeah, mostly in the Kalmaskat Mountains, in Puntland's Bari region.
Yeah.
And now with this guidance they're getting, yeah, not good.
Not good at all. And then, can't forget these airstrikes happened pretty soon after that other U.S. operation, the one against al-Qaeda in Syria.
Right, that was targeting Haraz al-Din, another nasty group, senior operative taken out.
So, it almost feels like the U.S. is shifting gears, maybe getting more proactive against, everyone, everywhere.
Could be. It's definitely something to watch.
So after all this information, what's the big takeaway?
Well, I think the main thing is this. Counterterrorism is never static. It's always changing. New tactics, new players, new challenges, like losing those bases.
Right.
And how the U.S. responds, that's going to keep changing too. And the whole ISIS-al-Shabaab dynamic, that's going to be a major factor in how things play out, not just in Somalia, but for the whole region.
It's almost like a new chapter starting in this whole fight, but we don't know what the plot's going to be yet.
Exactly. How these groups adapt, what works against them. Big questions.
Big unsettling questions, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, folks, there you have it. A deep, deep dive into the world of counterterrorism. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
It's always a pleasure.
Until next time.